Currently, around 1.5 billion devices are running on Windows worldwide. And quietly and methodically, across multiple product lines, Microsoft is building the infrastructure to charge you a monthly fee to use the operating system you already own. Microsoft has not yet officially announced a mandatory subscription for Windows, but the pieces are all in place. The pricing tiers exist. The cloud infrastructure is live. The ESU program is charging consumers for the first time in Windows history. And the company's own financial filings show that recurring subscription revenue from Windows users is already accelerating. By the end of this video, you'll know what's happening, what's already real, and what you should do right now. Let's start with what Microsoft says publicly, because it's more telling than people realize. Microsoft's official position is that Windows 11 is a free upgrade for eligible devices. That's true. It costs nothing to move from Windows 10 to Windows 11 if your hardware qualifies. Windows has always been sold as a one-time license, bundled with a new PC or purchased separately as a retail key. Microsoft has maintained that model for decades, but in 2021, something changed. Microsoft launched Windows 365, a subscription service that lets you run a full Windows PC entirely in the cloud for a monthly fee. At launch, it was aimed exclusively at enterprise customers. The idea was simple. Instead of buying a physical PC, companies could pay Microsoft every month for a cloud PC, a virtualized Windows machine that lives on Microsoft's servers and streams to any device. No upfront hardware cost, just a recurring monthly bill. At the same time, Microsoft was building out what it called Copilot. Starting as a rebrand of Bing Chat in early 2023, Copilot became deeply embedded in Windows 11, woven into the taskbar, the Settings app, and the Edge browser. Then, in January 2024, Microsoft launched Copilot Pro, a paid subscription at $20 per month, giving paying users priority access to more powerful AI models. A few months later, a dedicated Copilot key appeared on new Windows keyboards, a physical button on your hardware, leading to a subscription paywall. And while all of that was happening, Microsoft set a deadline, October 14th, 2025. That was the day Windows 10 reached the official end of support. After that date, Microsoft would no longer provide free security updates for the operating system that still ran on hundreds of millions of PCs worldwide. Now let's talk about what researchers and journalists found when they started digging. In late 2023, the German tech website Deskmodder did something fairly routine. It analyzed the INI configuration files inside the latest Windows 11 Canary build, which is the earliest and most experimental version of Windows that Microsoft releases to testers. What they found was not routine. Buried inside those files were references to a subscription edition of Windows, with fields for subscription type, device-based or user-based, and status flags including active, expired, and grace period. These weren't marketing mock-ups. These were functional code strings inside the Windows licensing system, specifically inside a component called slmgr.ini, which governs how Windows validates and activates its licenses. Windows Central and other outlets investigated and concluded the strings were tied to Windows 11 IoT Enterprise Subscription, a specialized enterprise SKU, it's K, not a consumer product. That's the important caveat. But here's what the analysis also revealed. Microsoft was actively building and testing subscription-capable licensing infrastructure directly inside the core Windows codebase. The plumbing was going in, and that infrastructure was already being put to use. Because at precisely the moment those code strings were being discovered, Microsoft was preparing to charge Windows 10 users for the first time just to keep receiving security updates. The Extended Security Updates program, previously only available to enterprise customers with volume licensing agreements, was extended to regular consumers in 2025 for the first time in Windows history. According to Microsoft's own documentation, consumers could pay roughly $30 per device to receive critical security patches for 1 year beyond the October 2025 deadline. Enterprise customers could pay starting at $61 per device per year, with the price increasing annually for up to 3 additional years. Think about what that means. For the first time, Microsoft created a model where individual consumers pay an annual subscription fee for security updates on an operating system they already purchased and own. The concept, pay us or lose protection, had arrived for home users, not just corporations. You might be thinking that's just a one-off for an aging operating system. Windows 10 is old. Of course, you'd have to pay to extend it eventually, and that's the framing Microsoft wants you to accept. But consider the timeline. Windows 10 still ran on an estimated 240 million PCs at its end of support date. Not everyone's machine, could run Windows 11 due to Microsoft's strict hardware requirements, particularly the TPM 2.0 chip requirement, which locked out millions of perfectly functional computers. Those users faced a choice: pay Microsoft for security, buy a new PC, or go unprotected. Then regulatory bodies and independent analysts began taking notice of this broader pattern well before the October 2025 deadline. In October 2025, Australia's competition regulator, the ACCC, filed a lawsuit against Microsoft. The core allegation was that Microsoft raised the prices of its Microsoft 365 personal and family subscription plans while bundling Copilot AI into those plans, without clearly disclosing to 2.7 million Australian subscribers that a cheaper option without Copilot existed. According to the ACCC's complaint, Microsoft only disclosed the existence of the lower-cost Classic plan during the cancellation process, not upfront when users were deciding whether to renew. That's a meaningful accusation because it goes directly to the transparency of how Microsoft is monetizing its software ecosystem. Privacy and consumer rights researchers at organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation have been raising related concerns for years. The core issue is what technologists call feature gating, the practice of building software so that core functionality works for free, while increasingly important capabilities require a paid subscription. Microsoft has been doing this not just with Copilot, but with OneDrive storage limits, with advanced security features in Windows, and with the AI-powered features in Office apps. Each step seems reasonable. The overall pattern is a systematic shift from ownership to rental. The European regulators also kept a close eye on Microsoft's bundling strategy, particularly after the company's antitrust history with Internet Explorer in the late 1990s. Any bundling of subscription-dependent services into a dominant operating system raises the same kinds of structural questions regulators dealt with back then, just with AI instead of a web browser. Now, you might be thinking about this in fairly abstract terms. Subscription fees, code strings, regulatory filings. Who does this affect in a day-to-day sense? Consider a small business owner running 5 computers, all of them purchased with Windows 10 pre-installed several years ago. When October 14th, 2025 arrived, their machines didn't stop working, but they stopped receiving security patches. And now imagine their business handles customer payment information. Running an unpatched operating system on a payment processing machine doesn't just create technical risk, it creates legal liability under PCI compliance rules. So they face a real choice: pay Microsoft's ESU fees for each device, spend money on new hardware, or take on regulatory exposure. That's not a hypothetical designed to scare you. That's the actual situation facing thousands of small businesses right now. Or consider a freelance graphic designer who bought a mid-range laptop in 2019. The machine works perfectly for their needs, but it doesn't have a TPM 2.0 chip, so it can't run Windows 11 under Microsoft's official requirements. When Windows 10 support ended, they either paid for extended update, upgraded their hardware, or switched operating systems. A person who paid once for an operating system is now being nudged with real security consequences toward a recurring payment. And then there's the Copilot question. In late 2025, Microsoft rolled out its Microsoft 365 Premium bundle, combining Microsoft 365 and Copilot features into a single package priced at around $20 per month. The company simultaneously phased out the standalone Copilot Pro promotion for new subscribers, pushing users toward the bundled product. The result is that if you want the AI features that are now deeply built into Word, Excel, and the Windows interface, you need a subscription, not just once, every month. With a price that has already gone up, Microsoft raised Microsoft 365 personal and family prices in late 2024, citing the value added by AI features. Customers in some markets saw their annual renewal cost jump by 30% or more. Microsoft has not been silent about these changes. The company has framed every one of them as adding value, not extracting it. On the Windows 365 front, Microsoft argues that cloud PCs offer enterprise customers security advantages, reduced attack surface, no local data storage, and centrally managed updates. The Windows 365 Link device, which Microsoft launched in 2024 for $349 and expanded globally through 2026, is designed explicitly to boot directly into a cloud Windows session with no local operating system at all. For IT departments managing hundreds of devices, the argument has some merit, but the direction of travel is clear. Microsoft is building a world where some Windows users don't own anything at all. Not the software, not the data, not the compute. They rent it all. On the ESU program for Windows 10, Microsoft's official position is that it's a temporary bridge. The documentation explicitly frames it as a paid program that provides individuals and organizations with the option to extend the use of Windows 10 devices. The word option is doing a lot of work in that sentence. When the alternative is running an unpatched operating system connected to the internet, it's not really a free choice. On the Copilot pricing, Microsoft's line is that the free tier still exists, and basic Copilot chat is available at no charge. That's technically true, but the company's own developer documentation and analyst projections tell a different story. Industry analysts at Forrester and elsewhere projected Microsoft 365 Copilot could generate $5 to $16 billion in annual revenue, if even a small fraction of the existing $300 million Office. 365 seats adopted it at $30 a month. That's not a company planning to stay free. That's a company building toward a subscription future, feature by feature, product by product. What's still not resolved is that Microsoft has never clearly committed to keeping the core Windows operating system free forever. The company's statements are always narrowly worded. Windows 11 is a free upgrade for eligible devices today. The word today is always implied even when not spoken. So what can you do about all of this? Here's what matters right now, in practical terms. First, if you're on Windows 10 and haven't checked your options, go to Settings, then Update and Security, then Windows Update. If your device qualifies for the free Windows 11 upgrade, it will appear there. Take it. It costs nothing and it gets you off the platform that is now in the paid extension zone. Second, if your device can't run Windows 11 and you haven't enrolled in the Consumer ESU program, do it now before October 2026 when the Consumer program closes. Go to Settings, then Update and Security, then Windows Update. If your device is eligible and running version 22H2, you'll see an option to enroll. The free enrollment option requires backing up your PC settings to your Microsoft account. That's a reasonable trade-off for most users. Third, audit your Microsoft subscriptions. Go to account.microsoft.com and check every active subscription. Many users are paying for Microsoft 365 Personal or Family and don't realize Copilot features were bundled in during a price increase. If you don't use the AI features, check whether a classic plan or a one-time purchase of Office 2024 makes more financial sense for you long-term. Fourth, if Copilot is integrated into your Windows taskbar and you'd prefer to minimize it, go to Settings, then Personalization, then Taskbar, and toggle off the Copilot option. It won't remove the software entirely, but it removes the constant visual prompt to engage with the paid tier. And fifth, this is the advanced step. If you're concerned about your data being used to train Microsoft's AI systems, go to Settings, then Privacy and Security, then Diagnostics and Feedback, and set diagnostic data to the minimum required level. Also, turn off the option labeled Improve Inking and Typing and disable Tailored Experiences. These settings limit what Microsoft collects from your usage patterns. Here's the honest summary of where things stand. Microsoft has not announced a mandatory subscription for Windows. Windows 12 will cost a monthly fee. The headlines that circulated in 2023 were based on enterprise code strings that don't translate directly to a consumer product. That version of the story was exaggerated, but the underlying shift is real, documented, and already underway. The first consumer paid subscription for Windows security updates launched in 2025. Cloud Windows PCs are a growing product line requiring monthly fees. The AI features are built directly into Windows, into the keyboard, the taskbar, where in the operating system itself, and sit behind a paywall. And when a government regulator sued Microsoft for not clearly disclosing cheaper options to millions of subscribers, it confirmed that the pricing strategy has real consequences for real people. The question isn't whether Windows will become a subscription. The question is, how much of it already has, and how much more will cross that line before most users even notice? Your move. Either check your subscription status right now, sound or share this video with someone who's still running Windows 10 and doesn't know their free security updates ended in October. Either one matters.